Welcome to the Paradise Paradox. My name's Kurt Robinson.
And my name's Aaron Battle.
So today we're going to be talking about UFOs and how they interact with our world. Do they exist? What evidence is there? Is it good evidence? And people's prejudices against looking at the evidence.
Subscribe on iTunes, subscribe on YouTube, send us a tweet at BattleAC and Trouble Bubble.
What is a UFO?
It's an unidentified flying object.
And who believes in those crazy things anyway?
Well, by definition, I think if you go by the strict definition, I think just about everybody believes in it. I've had this conversation with people people say to me stuff like, but I don't believe in UFOs. I say, really? Do you think that humans understand absolutely everything that goes on in the sky? And they say, well, no. And I say, okay, so you obviously believe in UFOs because you think there are some things up there in the sky that are not identified. So by definition, just about everybody believes in them.
I've come across people that tell me they don't believe in UFOs, but I think those same people think that UFO is one word and not the U, the F, and the O. That's for the unidentified.
Well, some organizations and some people use the alternative acronym UAP, or Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon. Because I guess partially because there's so much stigma associated with the phrase UFO.
Yeah, and sometimes the examples you can see aren't real identifiable objects. It's like, is it even an object, or is it a smudge on the camera, or is it an energy
object,
orb?
Not a flying one.
Yeah, it's I think maybe we need more words.
Yeah. Well, that's why that's part of the reason apparently they use the term unidentified aerial phenomena, because it doesn't necessarily need to be flying. It does specify that it's in the air.
So when you see people, or you bring up this topic, it's pretty often quite out of the blue, but the circles we partake with, it's kind of normal conversation. Yeah. I don't really come across that many people that don't have something to say about it. I think most people are kind of, they accept it. They kind of accept, okay, there's a lot of UFO activity, and what? So I got better things to worry about.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people in the world are like that. But it seems when I'm in Australia or in the United States, there's a strong prejudice against it. People will get very defensive if you bring up the word UFO as a serious topic of discussion.
Yeah, they think you're taking the piss. Let's talk about something interesting or something real.
Yeah, or they'll even, I remember I had one conversation where I started talking to a guy at work, and he's like, nope, they don't exist, nope, nothing about it, they're not a thing. And I said, well, I've done some research, and from what I've read, I think there is a lot of significant evidence there. And he said, well, I did my own research, and there was nothing, absolutely nothing. And then I brought up the Disclosure Project, and he said, what's that? And I was like, what do you mean? Well, you said you did research.
Research 101.
Disclosure Project is a project founded by Stephen Greer, and the idea is to get government organizations to release all of the information that they have about UFOs and aliens and other perhaps extraterrestrial phenomena. And anyway, so I said, what? Well, the Disclosure Project is, I explained that to him. And he said, it's a cult. I'm like, really? 2 seconds ago you didn't know what it was, and now you're 100% certain it's a cult. What just happened here?
How long were you talking to this guy for?
This conversation didn't last very long.
I wouldn't
you
imagine.
might understand. Yeah, less than 3 minutes probably. So that's the kind of intense prejudice that some people in Australia have about it. But in Mexico, other parts of Latin America, probably a lot of the non-English speaking world, people will just be like, oh yeah, UFOs, yeah, of course they're a real thing. Yeah.
I get the impression you could ask pretty much anyone on the street, have they seen a UFO? Or if they don't say yes, there'd be something like, just something weird. They'll probably tell you a story of something. I feel like it's more common here to interpret something as like, it's just an out of this world experience or a UFO or something. I think people aren't. They don't shoot you down. They don't just shut you down, or they don't just erase it from their mind.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe I hang out with some interesting people, but I feel like in general the culture's more accepting.
Yeah, and I think it's if we get into a whole conspiracy theory about it. Well, I mean, partly conspiracy theory and partly conspiracy fact. Things in the United States, it seems that certain forces deliberately try to limit the discussion about UFOs, and so to the extent where you can read transcripts where somebody suggests that there's a large disc floating over the control tower at an airport, and one of the pilots or one of the staff says, "Of course I can't see it. What are you, high? Of course I can't see anything up there. And even if I did, I wouldn't tell you."
Where was this documented?
This is from a book that I was reading. It's called UFO by Leslie Kean, and it's about pilots and other officials and people in the airline industry talking about their experiences with UFOs.
That's not really a response that I find surprising. I think most pilots would want to keep their mouth shut.
Yes, well, most in the United States. And there are other cases like an airline pilot is playing golf with his boss and he says, I did see an unidentified flying object once. And his boss said, "Really, that's a shame, because we would like to keep you on the staff."
I mean, I believe it. Is it real? Or is that a joke?
Well, it's a little bit of hearsay, but that's from that same book. And I mean, this book is quite well sourced. It's got people's real names in it, and yeah. But then, contrary to that, in the UK, pilots will say, "Well, of course, if I see something in the air, I'm gonna let people know about it because it could be dangerous. Like if there's something unidentified flying around, you need to know because if it's like a controlled airspace, you need to know that you're not going to run into something."
Yeah, there could be an anomaly with the technology that they use and all the instruments. There could be, I mean, for them to see it. I mean, they're little windows on the plane. For them to see something, I mean, it could be something. It could be something dangerous or something that could be interpreted as something else. But why do you think that's the case? Like, why do you think they don't want people talking about it?
I don't really know. Now, this is a story that I have heard, and I just did a quick Google search, but I was unable to confirm this. But the rumor was someone from NASA brought in an expert, perhaps some sort of public relations expert or sociology analysis or an analyst or something like this, and NASA said, "Okay, so if we do discover UFOs, what's the best course to take about breaking it to the public?" And the analyst said, "My best advice: deny everything. Don't tell anybody anything about UFOs if they are real." I'm not really sure why they made that recommendation, if they indeed did.
I didn't get it. I mean, I'm fascinated by the whole UFO idea. Because, I mean, you don't know whether it's... Most people jump to the idea of aliens.
Yeah.
Some people jump to missions and military aircraft. And other people just couldn't care less. I want to know more information about it. I stopped looking at it and stopped researching it, and I don't really get through reports because I feel like most of it's all misinformation or just bullshit.
Misinformation and disinformation, and yeah, just the same stuff over again. Sometimes it seems like,
and even
like we can't get to the root of anything.
And even looking for videos or any kind of, I mean, it's all, you just don't know what to trust anymore. I mean, and then that's the Apollo missions.
Yeah, some of those UFO videos look almost as real as the Apollo missions.
Just saying.
Or is it the other way around? Yeah. Yeah. So what about Foo Fighters?
Yeah, I mean, I brought that up because it's like, it's documented well that there was World War II, they're flying through Europe, Germany, and there's like, what are these flying energy orbs beside me, above me, around? And that was it. That was my history lesson. It's like, anyone interested in that kind of technology? Back then, I mean, if now no one talks about it, it's like, there's a missing gap in my education. I don't know, you haven't heard much about Foo Fighters either? Or that's about it?
Yeah, that's about the extent of my knowledge.
Because I'm wondering if it was some kind of secret technology that the Nazis had, they probably wouldn't want the world to know that Germany had better technology, yet it's pretty common that their cars are sweet. Yeah. It's like the engineers knew what they're doing. I mean, they still dominate in engineering now. Yeah. It's like, who's to say they didn't have something that was covered up or borrowed? I mean, you mentioned the Operation Paperclip.
Yeah.
I mean,
so Operation Paperclip was an operation after World War II where Nazi scientists were extracted from Germany and taken to the United States and given cushy government jobs.
I mean, obviously they didn't stop their research.
Yeah.
I mean, they might have taken the paycheck and shut their mouth, but if they're producing good work, why wouldn't they be put to work? Yeah.
Some people say there are no allegiances in science, like it doesn't matter what country you're from. I mean, yeah, I can understand if they were really good scientists. It makes sense to do that. But some people seem very disturbed by that idea. I guess it depends what the scientists were doing exactly. I mean, they could have been doing some weird shit where they're extracting the lungs from mentally disabled and trying to animate them apart from their body. Or so. Have you ever seen those videos of Russian scientists and they're animating dog heads?
Oh, they're the bad guys, aren't they? Russian scientists? I haven't
in
seen
just
them.
about every movie.
I haven't seen them.
I'll show you this video later. I'll put a link in the description here because this it's a pretty sick video, and I'm not entirely sure how real it is, but it looks pretty real. If they were doing it with puppets, well, there's some pretty advanced puppets or some kind of camera trickery, perhaps. But yeah, I think they separate they get a heart of a dog and they've got it there sitting in a test tube, in a beaker and like pumping stuff into it. And then there's another one where they have the dog's head that's sitting... Actually, it's been a while since I've seen this. I'm not sure how accurate this is.
The only thing I'm thinking about is
pretty impressive when I saw it.
Is like those evil German scientist that tried connecting people. The movie, The Human Centipede. Okay. I haven't brought myself to watch it. I mean, your reaction, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. I've never seen it. I don't think I'll ever watch it.
No, I've got no desire to watch it either. But it's kind of like extracting the characteristics of mushrooms that are able to attack other organisms at a genetic level, and then splicing in different genes of other various plants that are able to change the DNA chain. Like that's sick. But
why is it sick?
Well, it's just because you're planning things you don't know. It's like,
yeah, but that's what all experimentation is.
Yeah, but I mean,
most of it.
But then you don't label it GMO, give it a 9,000 fruit code, and put it on the shelf in Walmart. People that eat and consume on a completely worldwide level, and not tell them about it. That's sick.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting subject. The thing is, I mean, I don't think, of course, I think you would agree that I don't think governments should force companies into labeling what's in their food. Would you agree?
Well, I think there's probably a lot of companies that don't know.
Yeah.
And that they're happy to
Okay,
label.
yeah, that's a good point as well. Yeah. But the other side of it is, I mean, if you're buying good food, organic food, not that those two are always the same, but if you're buying good organic food, you'll probably know because you've deliberately chosen to do it. And a lot of the time, organic producers aren't ashamed at all to put the word organic on there.
It is a double-edged sword, isn't it? Because I'm thinking of like your mum and pop's, sauerkraut company.
Okay.
It's like they have no idea what's actually in that, other than the sauerkraut they left, to ferment in their basement, and now they're selling it as like a superfood. It's like, are they going to really label their food correct? But then
There's no way they can know exactly what cultures have developed in it.
It's like, how far down the chain do you go?
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. Oh, so
anyway, we're talking about government organizations and disclosure of UFO reporting and all those bits and pieces.
Yeah, so you can watch the discourse of the Disclosure Project, and they have it's about 2 or 3 hours long, this entire conference that they released about 10 or 12 years ago, and you can watch the whole thing, and a bunch of pilots and air traffic controllers, radar attendants, and all of these things from all over the world. They all get up and they tell their stories about unexplained data or unexplained sightings.
So the thing is, they seem to range so much. Like, you can jump to conclusions, say that there's alien aircraft, or, there's interdimensional anomalies, or there's, military projects and aircraft. I mean, everyone knows they've got stuff that isn't released yet. I mean, I feel like it's pretty common to know that, the militaries of the world have aircraft that are so beyond what you jump on to, fly your, normal domestic or international flights, that, they could appear to be an unidentified aircraft.
Right, but that could explain some sightings. But if some of these sightings are accurate, like they have crafts which do stuff like fly at a few hundred kilometers an hour, or even a few thousand kilometers an hour, stop on a dime, and then move off in a 90-degree direction.
Yeah, I mean, public awareness.
Yeah, we
don't know what that is.
Yeah, and I don't think any government in the world has that kind of technology, and a lot of these pilots and things say, no, this isn't anything like what's being developed or what has been developed. This is so they say that the extraterrestrial hypothesis is quite a reasonable one.
Yeah, it's
if
easy
this
to
data is accurate.
It's easy to jump to that conclusion.
Well, it's not jumping to a conclusion. It's considering a hypothesis. And that's what they're doing. Like they're saying, like if this thing isn't made by humans, then what is it made by? And the data strongly leads you to consider that hypothesis.
See, I'm not okay. I think the puzzle piece fits, but I'm not exactly 100% sure that there aren't governments or there aren't some kind of secret project that might have that type of technology. that might, have access to it.
What? And they've had it for like 20 or 30 or 50 years?
Yeah.
You believe that?
Okay, I'm going to believe it's a possibility. Like, I'm not going to say that, well, firstly, let's say Roswell, that was like 60 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that they weren't able to repair that ship or re-engineer it. Let's say if it did crash, but then, I'm not going to say that, it was, that was like some kind of Nazi time machine and they just put little alien dummies in there for a few photos, if they're even real. You know what I mean? Like,
if the photos are real? Wait, are there photos of alien dummies?
Yeah, you can find photos of aliens, but then, you can also find...
from Roswell, though? From Roswell?
No, I don't believe...
No, I don't think so.
I don't know. I'm gonna have to look, but my point is, like, I like to believe in all possible options, but then I don't invest in, I'm not going to get up and say, that's what happened. Yeah. So I'm just saying that it's a possibility that if there was alien ships crash at some point, then there's no reason why a government office opens up this X project and was able to fly it. Yep.
Well, that's... Yeah, a lot of people speculate that the government recovered something like microchip technology, and that's the reason why technology has advanced so much in the last 60 years, that the US government actually found a bunch of technology at Roswell and they're slowly releasing it over time. And there's an interesting case, and I always forget the name of this, but I'll flash it up on the screen right now. It's something like the Los Angeles Research Center, or is it some research facility in California. And the story is this guy's released these documents over the internet to talk about his work there. So he's released his anonymous information, and he's got some photos of these apparently extraterrestrial devices, anti-gravity devices, and, well, not even anti-gravity. It's like complete control of gravity, because this device, it can be split into pieces and separated by space, like say 50 centimeters or a meter away. But when this device is turned on, those pieces will be fixed in position 50 centimeters or 1 meter away, and fixed in position around this object, this motor, or this gravity device. And actually, it's very weird, because a few years after I read that document, quantum levitation became a reality in the University of Tel Aviv.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about anti-gravity. I mean, it's like that doesn't seem that out of... I mean, okay, anti-gravity, you're insane, it's out of control. But then, they've had like the floating, magnetic lift bullet train since I was a kid.
Yeah, but that's magnetism, that's not gravity. That's something... Well, I mean, I guess the quantum levitation isn't exactly gravity either. It's like an exemption from gravity. But you've seen the quantum levitation videos, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's so many of them now.
Yeah. It's like starting to become a thing, and in a few years that might be large scale technology. When they still have to use superconductors, so they have to supercool the material so they can get it to levitate like that. But in a few years, they might find a way around that, and fixed gravity devices might be a common thing.
See, in my basic research of like Foo Fighters possibly being some kind of technology that Germany had during the war, there is information to say, I mean, whether it could be imaginatory or not, I'm not sure. But
imaginatory, that's a good one.
Yeah, that came out interesting. It's like... I found information to say that, you just get this tube and you throw mercury in there and then you spin it around really fast, you zap it with a bit of electricity, you keep it super cool, and the thing just floats. And I mean, that's not anti-gravity machines, that's just what they talk about, technology that Germany had, and then there's like conspiracies on like the submarines that were carrying, 20-30 ton of mercury to their new Schwanstein land or whatever it's called in Antarctica. I can't remember.
Okay. So the Nazi Antarctic base. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like, these are stories, right?
Yeah,
that's what I'm led to believe.
There's a lot of rumors going on.
But if people are putting together their imagination and creating these wonderful fairy tales about Germany having superior technology based around mercury and blah blah blah, they're building these ships in Antarctica, and then you look and you find these UFO videos where they talk about having these triangle-shaped ships and having 3 anti-gravity engines that are in circular form, and I've come across people saying that it's the same technology. Like, it's not that hard to bridge the gap between what they potentially had then, or at least had the idea. And I'm not saying they came up with it. I'm saying maybe there's more than just one crashed UFO that they're able to say, well, what's that liquid metal dripping out of it? But then, it could be military stuff. I don't know. The point is, UFOs exist, and we need more information about it. And why is it so taboo to talk about it or not talk about it? Or why is it covered up? And why doesn't the media cover this if it's such an interest in possibly advancement in technology?
Yeah.
Why is it so, don't talk about it?
Well, I have seen more media coverage in the last 5 years. Like, there's been a couple of reports on Australian news talking about strange objects in the sky, and it's probably partly or even mostly due to the prevalence of video cameras nowadays, and video cameras on phones. People can take this footage and send it to the media and ask, what the hell is this thing?
That's definitely shedding some light. I mean, access to having a video camera in your pocket.
Yep. Of course, it's still very difficult, especially with a phone camera. It can be very difficult to get any decent kind of footage with these things without optical zoom. You take a picture of this thing and it just looks like a dot, and you're like, oh, what's that? Is it just a star or what?
or a smudge or a fly landed on your lens.
Yeah. And also, I have read in this book, this Leslie Kean book, that some of these UFOs let out infrared signals, and so if you try to take a picture of it, it will actually more or less blend in with the environment. You won't be able to see it because of the way the camera works.
So we're unequipped. This is beyond us. You know what worries me? It scares me that my knowledge on this topic seems to fall in line with trends in movie releases, like Men in Black, like the Signal, or like the last movie Signal. That was interesting, with all abductee type stuff. The Fourth Kind. Like, there's a lot of alien.
The Fourth Kind.
Yeah, have you seen The Fourth Kind?
No.
It's like just briefly, it's a movie about like the psychological effects and the damage it does to a community when there's a large group of people that experience being abducted but don't know how to articulate what happened, and it's like their memories being erased, so they have to be put under some kind of hypnosis.
Yeah. And
then they relive the moment, or they relive the experience, and it's absolutely terrifying because whatever happened, whether it's true or not, it's in the movie, it's true. The alien's able to erase the memory, and that just leaves the people feeling, I guess, violated. It's an interesting movie, but my point is, my knowledge on this topic is basically back to movies, which is a concern, because... So
you're saying we're being manipulated by Hollywood?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Okay.
Because I don't know anything about aliens. I have no...
Well, we've researched a lot outside of movies. We haven't just watched Close Encounters of the Third Kind and be like, yep, that's the real shit.
The Fourth Kind. No, but I mean, my point is, you can do all your research, but it's kind of... You can see how movies also do their research. and just, you know, join the dots and paint it the way they want. Like that's kind of the collective awareness.
Yeah.
So, you know, all of a sudden you talk about, you know, different types of weapons and aircraft and, you know, government agencies, and they're like, man, you watch too many movies. And that's the end of the common conversation.
Okay. Well, that's like on that episode of Stargate SG-1, where one of the guys who was somehow involved in their explorations gets a job at as a screenwriter on a TV show, and then he starts incorporating all these themes subconsciously into his screenplays, and the boss of SG-1 says, "Oh well, you know, this means if we ever get exposed, if anybody from the inside starts talking about it, we can just point to the show and say, this guy's a kook, he thinks this TV show is real."
You think this shit actually exists? Yeah, I really enjoyed that episode. It's just like, well, yeah, of course. I mean,
and you're like, now you're fucking with us. Like, what if what you're talking about is actually real, and you're using this show to cover it up?
well, now we talk about like ancient aliens and special geological sites that also reference this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Watch us again at Paradise Paradox. Watch us on YouTube, like us on Facebook. Watch us on YouTube, like us on Facebook. Tweet us on Twitter, and listen to us on iTunes or Pocket Casts.
Welcome back. So we're being played. Sort of appears like.
Yeah, we're all being manipulated by Hollywood. Well, I remember there was that. Yeah, so in the 80s, there was that movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And then, who was it? I think it was Spielberg who directed it. And then later, he made that TV show Taken, which is about people getting abducted, a bunch of Air Force pilots getting abducted, and they have to confront their experiences, like what the hell happened to us, and a similar thing to what you're describing with the fourth kind. And the thing was, people look at them and they say, "Wow, look at this huge change over the years in the way the subject matter is treated." Like, if you look back at Close Encounters of the Third Kind, it looks very simplistic. But now there's all this depth to it, and different ways that he looks at the abductees.
Yeah, it's all very. There's a lot of psychoanalytic, you know.
Mumbo jumbo.
Yeah, well, I don't mean to be on me, but it does seem like, you know, all of a sudden all the you know, later movies are all about psychiatrists and, you know, mentally ill patients, and how it's like it's taken more down that social road.
Yeah, well, one work on the subject, which I found rather candid, is Communion by Whitley Strieber. And Whitley Strieber was a fantasy or science fiction, a horror writer, and then he purportedly was abducted by strange beings. And it's interesting too, because the way he describes it in the book, he's quite rational about it. Like, he never says these are definitely extraterrestrials or anything like that. He says these things, you know, this is what happened. The interpretation is another question. Like, he even is constantly saying, you know, is it a fantasy? Is it reality? How real is it? And yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking of like lucid dreaming. I know that a topic pops up every now and then, and we chat about it. But there's
the old hag.
Yeah, I mean, who's to say
old
that
hag syndrome? Yep.
That people that talk about some kind of I don't know, light going over their house? I mean, are they even consciously in this reality? Are they even awake, or is that just like a daydream and they interpret something, and just because they lose track of time, it's something significant?
Well, there are a few things about this case. If everything that Strieber says is accurate, then I would say there's definitely more to it than just old hag syndrome or a lucid dream, or, you know, something a little more mundane than that. Because he did go to a doctor after one of these events, and the doctor told him, "You've been raped anally," and that's. I mean, it's possible something like that could be psychosomatic, or I guess self-inflicted, but that's one thing. But then there's also the fact that his children also seem to be influenced by the same events when they go out to the cabin. Sometimes they see these things, they see these lights. Sometimes they even see the beings. So, if providing what Strieber says is accurate, yeah, there's something more going on there.
I think that this kind of phenomena does, I mean, because it can leach into different areas and it isn't very, I mean, there's next to no like heavy knowledge on this stuff where it can be put into categories and separated from a crazy guy telling a story to something that may have actually happened. Like where there's physical evidence, I mean, of course, it's so easy to discredit this kind of thing, but it's because it's so just way out there that people don't take it seriously as a collective. Like I think I don't think the media is doing their job correctly in covering this kind of information in a way that doesn't leave the person involved feeling like they're loopy.
Right. Well, when they made the movie of Communion, Christopher Walken played Strieber, and Strieber said to Walken, "Look, I think you're being a bit over the top. I mean, it even looks like you're portraying me as crazy." And Walken just said, "Well, if the shoe fits." So, in a way, that was a simplification that he enacted through that role.
And then, but that's a movie.
Yeah, that's a movie, but that's a way that our consciousness is shaped to think about this subject. Yeah. It's a movie, but it's based on the book, and the book is purportedly a real event.
Well, it's a shame if they play it down like that. I haven't seen the movie at all, but it sounds like something within the realm of what I'd be interested in.
But it's similar to say with John Ronson's book, Men Who Stare at Goats, and then it was made into that movie with Ewan McGregor and George Clooney, and it makes it into this kind of comical thing, and almost none of the questions in the book come out in the movie, and it's almost like this is the thing. Like who tells the history? Is it the historians, or is it the storytellers? Normally, it's the storytellers, like say with Shakespeare. Which versions of Shakespeare's stories do you remember better? Like the real version of King Richard III, or the play, or which version here in Mexico? Which version of the Spaniards coming to Mexico and meeting the Aztecs is remembered better? The Weeping Woman.
I know the one. There's like so many folk stories about it. People see it. Nearly every creek and nearly every river has their own story, their own version.
Yeah. Yeah, this weeping woman who's seen all over Mexico. But my point is, in the play, what happens is the Spaniards come in, and the Aztecs are seen as the good guys in the story. La Malinche is seen as a traitor to Mexico. And that's like the simplistic version of the story which you get. Actually, it was a bit more complicated. The Aztecs were not nice guys. I mean, at least the more powerful ones.
Yeah, they paint her in the common story to be like a whore, the traitor.
Yeah.
But then, but in the more traditional story, or maybe the real version, she was really quite a linguistic genius. And they felt then it's a love story. But there's so many different versions of that, depending on whether you want to. Depends which way you're invested.
Yeah. In the popular consciousness, people say Malinche or Malinchista to mean someone that's a traitor to their own country, or that prefers foreigners to someone that's from their own country, and that's that's definitely a simplification of that story. There's many aspects to it. So, yeah.
Well, using that example and jumping back to UFOs, what's the mass media doing in this case?
Like with communion?
Well, I'm talking.
They just
like,
portray Stryber as crazy, and then you know, that was how they left it.
So they're able to dismiss a possible phenomena that's going to leave anyone else from then onwards that experiences anything like that.
Exactly. So Stryber releases their book Communion. It's candid, honest, asking questions. They turn it into a movie with Christopher Walken portraying him like he's a lunatic. No more questions, right?
Yeah, well, that's the easy way out. And then everyone else after that's just a nut.
Yeah.
Don't listen to them, or they're too scared to ask for help or release their own story. And there's pretty many of these stories.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure there is.
Yep.
Because nothing's a once-off case.
We'll do another episode on this where I want to read the Project Blue Book. We're each going to read it and give an analysis or talk about our favorite cases from it. We haven't read it yet, but the rumor is this, that the project was set up to investigate, or the stated intention was to investigate cases of UFOs, but the people they chose to head the project were actually the most hardline skeptics that they could find. Well, not even a skeptic, that's not the right word. These were people who were willing to dismiss any evidence that came up about UFOs. And so the story is that in the book itself, in all of the cases, there is mountains and mountains of evidence which warrants further investigation. But the conclusion written by these people who headed the project is that there isn't any evidence and it doesn't warrant further investigation. And of course, when the press got a hold of that, they read the conclusion, they didn't read the full report, and that was that. That was the story that came out. That was how the US government told the story.
Well, you told me there's 500 pages. So
well, I haven't read it. I don't know how many pages, but it's quite long. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's about anyone that would have put it together would have wanted to get information out, or they would have put a lot of work into it. So there's a lot of stories and a lot of processing. So we'll check it out. We'll read it and follow up the UFO, I guess, encounters or episodes, because
chase the scoop. Yeah.
Because I'm concerned that maybe I'm being too Hollywoodized, and I want some real information. But I think I asked you a little while ago whether you have a UFO episode that's your favorite, or is there something that you kind of feel like this one was cool, and you mentioned the light over Norway. Yep.
So a few years ago, about 3 years ago, it was around 2012, 2013, there was a news story about a spiraling light over Norway. And it looks very weird. You can still find the footage. We'll put a link in the description here. And it was strange because later, a couple of days after the story came out, the official explanation was this was one of Russia's missiles.
Is that the only official explanation?
As far as I'm aware, yes.
Like it's not like the Batman sign started spinning or something. Because I mean it's not just a cloud formation. It's not just like the moon reflected wrong off some kind of something on a satellite. Like it's a serious, it's a pretty clear spinning spiral.
Yes, and I'm not sure how a missile would even make that. But then it's this thing, like it ends the conversation somehow, like, oh, that's a Russian missile. But wait, I mean, even if that's accurate, if we assume that's accurate, we got to start asking a lot more questions.
Why is there Russian missile testing leaving anything above Norway?
Yes.
I mean, do you think the Norwegian people bought that? Apparently they did.
Yeah, well, I did ask my buddy in Norway about it, and I think his response was that he hadn't heard anything about it. So that was interesting again. But yeah, why is Russia firing test missiles at Norway. Like, that doesn't seem like a cool thing to do. It actually seems like they're about to instigate some kind of war, some kind of international incident.
Do you think maybe the media of Norway just didn't advertise it? Or didn't play it? Didn't question it?
I'm not sure. That would require more research.
I don't know. I might ask the question to a few Norwegian friends, see if they know anything about it. Because by the sounds of it, they probably haven't heard of it either.
Yeah, maybe not.
But it appears like the Mexican government and media seem to cover a lot of aliens and UFOs.
Yeah.
Sorry to throw aliens in there, but it's only because I'm a little biased that way through my readings with Drunvalo Melchizedek. He talks about a lot of like spiritual awakening of the planet and different episodes like that. And I recently read his book, The Serpent of Light, which talks about his adventures through the central Mesoamerican area where he was visiting pyramids, and his background's like native Indian, so of course he's tuned to those energies and all that kind of thing.
When you say Indian, you mean Native American?
Yeah, like Native American Indian.
Okay.
I just kind of I blend them all together because I feel like all these tribes were all like the one people, just in different areas. But I probably should be more specific. So now he's opened a school with meditation and things, and trying to find the sacred space of the heart, which I think is probably linking to these kind of phenomena. The only way we're going to get truth about it is if we start exercising things like remote viewing or lucid dreaming, and start posing the questions in that level. But the reason why I mention Drunvalo is because he actually says that there is a crystal city of another, I'm going to say alien, because another level of life, in a crystal city that's like a level of like light being consciousness underneath Mexico that's accessible through the volcanoes. And that's all, you're pretty wondering why that's even relevant. But that's interesting because in Mexico here there's so much news on alien or UFOs around the volcanoes and activity. I mean, the most popular is the pyramid. I'm going to say this wrong, man. Popocatépetl.
Sounds good.
Okay, yeah. Which is the volcano of Mexico City, and there's at least 6 different types of video through 2012, 2013, 2014. And then we've found a recent one of the pyramid of the volcano in Colima that was like only last month, but I'm not sure how credible that video is.
The horse-shaped UFO.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know. But the point is, if you check out the ones in Mexico City, it looks like, it could be almost a kilometer long. This is light that's flying straight into the volcano. I mean, anyone's interested in checking out like UFO footage, that's one that's like apparently legit. I mean, they're talking about cameras that are watching this volcano because it's been like semi-erupting for like a few years now. So everyone's watching it. And then there's like these videos of these light orbs that do this spiral entrance, or that fly out, or that are flying in. And putting that together with what Drunvalo's talking about, it's interesting. I mean, I'm not sure how much research is going into that, but I mean, it's left me scratching my head, and I'm interested in checking out more info about that. But why do they investigate? Or they put on the news and they leave it at that? Because I know
what are they going to do? Go into the volcano?
Well, at least, why not? Can they do that?
Like journey to the center of the earth or something?
Well, I mean, I think some people try to do like these meditation trips and journeys.
Okay.
But that's just someone's dream time, right? I mean, that's not credible at all.
So you want us to try remote viewing or residual viewing inside the volcano?
Done. I'll do it.
Okay.
we'll do that too. Stay tuned. But the government here in Mexico, the military openly release. They opened up all their files on on UFOs and footage and stories and their reports. Everything was opened up.
Really? The Mexican military and Air Force, they released everything?
Yep, and all their
okay.
and I mean they were very cooperative with the disclosure project as well, and all their artifacts of their ancient civilizations they've all opened up as well. And there's quite a few videos with Nassim Haramein. He's a professor at the university in Hawaii. I'm not sure what the university is called, but he has he studies a lot to do with like physics and space, and he does a presentation on the artifacts that were released from many Mayan sites that quite clearly document alien ships. You haven't seen that?
No. I've watched Ancient Aliens with Giorgio. Oh, what's his name? George. He's got a Greek name. Anyway.
I'm pretty sure it was Aliens. That's the guy.
Everybody's seen the meme. Everybody's probably seen the show. But then there's a very good documentary on YouTube called Ancient Aliens Debunked. And it goes through and lists several reasons why the Ancient Aliens doesn't hold up to scrutiny. And that's and he brings up a lot of excellent points. I'm still very interested in the idea, but I'm not sure how much evidence there is to support the idea of ancient aliens on Earth.
Well, I know their mathematics was out of this world.
Well, it's true, yeah. Oh, there's that one case of the Dogons, this tribe in, I think they're called Dogons, the tribe in Africa. And they had all this ancient astronomical knowledge and predicting the path of all these planets, and these things could not be seen with the naked eye. And then when people ask, so how did you find out about this? And they say, well, the aliens told us, of course. And at that stage, everybody says, oh, okay, sure, whatever.
Yeah, that's a very interesting case because it's quite broad. I mean, the things they talk about, the masks they wear, these long, tall masks that were apparently to mimic the aliens that apparently arrived. It seems to be common culture that they know exactly where the stars or the star system Sirius is, like just through the community. They all know, like, there it is. That's our gods. You know, that's where they come from. And you know, they also David Icke he covers the Dogon people quite well. Well, he talks about like the moon, the way they talk about it as that's an egg, and it's like, okay, cool, you know, primitive, basic people look at a big circle in the sky and call it an egg, but they descriptively describe it as an egg because they say the aliens brought it here and they hollowed it out like an egg. So I mean, I don't know. It's easy to say, you know, they have information that should be beyond them, but then it's how much do you want to give them credit for, and then, you know, what information do you want to listen to and what don't you want to listen to? Because I'm not sure if they covered that in Ancient Aliens. I kind of got over it.
Yeah, I don't know if they touch on that one. Yeah, but they made a lot of episodes of that show, and I think yeah, it seems like they have so much material, but I think they squeeze a lot of things in to make it seem like it supports their hypothesis better than it actually does. Yeah, so another interesting thing is the French version of NASA, the French Space Commission, CNES, has a subdivision called GEIPAN, G-E-I-P-A-N, which is a center for investigating UFOs. And an interesting thing about this is that they have 4 classifications of UFOs. The first one is identified, and it's kind of funny sometimes because they list things in there like you'd expect, like model aircraft and model helicopters, drones, but they also list things like reflections of car windows, and I have to think, who the hell reported that? Who reported a reflection of a car window as a UFO? Anyway, the classification B is probably identified. Classification C is insufficient data, and classification D is unidentified, truly unidentified, like they don't know what it is and they don't even know who to ask to determine what it is. And it used to be, I've been looking on this site for years, it used to be that 22% of their cases were classification D. Now it looks like it's less, it's about 10%, but that's still quite a lot. They have hundreds of cases on there, so we're talking scores of cases that are unidentified just within France. So I think that...
Well, my comment on that was, why is there's only like, you showed me the site where it had all the officers that were researching these kind of phenomena.
Yeah.
And there's only like 20 odd officers, and then you got to think of the ones
20
that
different organizations around the world, like CES, CTI, and a few other organizations. Yep.
But then you got to ask why they shutting some of these down, or are they really getting shut down? Like I mentioned that the UK shut down their investigations into UFOs and other kind of unidentified.
Which organization are you talking about? The Ministry of Defense or the Air Force, or which part?
Well, whichever one looked after like alien stuff.
Okay, because there was a case. I remember, I think it was 10 or 20 years ago. They ended their program and they said that, I think it was the Ministry of Defense. They said we'll no longer be accepting any information about this because, as far as we can tell, there's no threat to national security. But I mean, they never said that there wasn't any validity to it. Just that it wasn't a threat.
It would have made more sense to say that we don't have the budget for it anymore. Full stop. It's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Well, apparently, I do remember hearing in some documentary that it was just one guy at a desk and he's sitting there taking calls and then he's like, I'm wasting too much time on this.
Wasn't that X-Files?
So I might have been getting it confused.
So they gave him a sidekick. Did you watch X-Files much?
Yeah, I used to watch it all the time. Yeah,
it was a cool show. Like it was interesting. Maybe a childhood of X-Files is why we think the way we think now. It's like I want to know what's going on, and none of that.
Yeah, but why did Chris Carter start thinking that way? But they're actually bringing it back for 6 episodes.
Really?
Yeah,
I
season.
haven't heard that. That's an exclusive.
Yeah, he said. Carter said, "Just think of it as a really long commercial break."
Good.
Yeah.
So what these episodes must be. I mean, if they're going to do new content, there's like a lot has jumped between then and now. I wonder what they're going to do.
Yeah, I wonder. Yeah. So a few months ago, about 6 months ago, there was a press conference with Russian Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev, and he said that apparently after the camera stopped running, or after he realized that when he thought that the cameras had already stopped running, he was still answering some questions from the journalists, and someone asked him about aliens, and he said something like, "Oh, well, I know, yes, I know there's many different information about," I'm doing a German accent, it's not a Russian accent. There's a lot of different information about UFOs, and you can check the very reliable, high-quality documentaries, Men in Black, and everybody laughed. And about a month ago, people came out saying, he wasn't actually talking about the Hollywood movies. He was talking about this Russian documentary, which I watched this Russian documentary also, the same name. It's called Men in Black, and it just goes through a few witness accounts. None of them are particularly interesting. They're just visitations by some men wearing black and people telling them not to worry about it. Some abduction stories, but might be worth watching once. But I didn't think there was anything particularly interesting about it. Then, I asked my friend, "Is Medvedev really talking about a documentary?" My Russian friend Svetlana, and she said, "No, I listened to it. he's just making a stupid joke, and that's it. So that's not, from my limited investigation, I can tell that's a dead end. That's not very
That's a
interesting.
shame, because I was kind of hoping that Men in Black was, there was more to it. I mean,
that the Hollywood movies were based on something real.
yeah, we just got to travel through, like, you know, the Homeland Security experience of traveling through the US to think, who are they looking for? Like, these machines, are they really going to see anything? Are they scanning my biological
Testicles.
makeup? Yeah, they're messing up my kids. Or are they trying to figure out where the aliens are hiding? Because those machines, what are they for? What are they
I
doing?
don't think that has anything whatsoever to do with aliens. I think it's all about security theatre and people getting on the government's paycheck and increasing GDP and making a show out of terrorism to get people frightened. I don't think. I don't think
they could invest in
aliens
Hollywood
come
for that.
into that at all. Yeah, well, they do. They do that as well.
Okay. Lucky.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that, I mean, let me have a look. I think I've covered most of what what we're saying.
Well, there's another one I wanted to bring up. Have you seen UFO Yahweh?
No, that sounds interesting.
Okay, so there's this clip on YouTube where a reporter goes out and he's been told that somebody has contacted the TV station and told them that there's a guy who can summon UFOs, and he goes out there and then he acts all surprised when UFO Yahweh actually does summon some UFOs, and there are some UFOs floating around in the sky. I have to wonder what this reporter expected the story to be before the UFOs came along, but he does appear to be genuinely shocked. UFO Yahweh is like this big African American, maybe he's a Rasta type dude, and he's like, yeah, they're heading, these UFOs heading toward the airport. They want to be seen.
Are these like little black dots?
Little white dots.
Okay.
To me, I think they might actually just be balloons. And UFO Yahweh has an accomplice, 500 meters down the road.
Bushes.
Yeah, 2 or 3, 5 kilometers down the road, release some balloons, and then they can let them blow in the wind and say, they're UFOs.
Well, Greer does kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
He goes through a process of some kind of, meditation, lifting frequency, consciousness, and then inviting the UFOs to show themselves as if they're in some kind of superimposed dimension. And they're able to like just show themselves in our reality or not. I don't know. Well, what do you make of that? Because I know he gets a lot of criticism.
I don't know. I haven't seen him interviewed about it, but I have. What I've heard is they do get some results. It's not with any consistency, but something happens. Yeah, that's all I've heard.
Yeah, no, I feel like it's. I feel like it's a genuine footage, but how many times do they have to do it to see some kind of visual anomaly?
It only takes once, right? That's a
yeah. Well, that's if
it's
exactly.
real shit. It only takes once. It only takes once for your pencil to float off the bed to make it
real.
Yeah, to make it a valuable information. It's an interesting piece of data. Yeah. So just quickly, another thing is Edgar Mitchell, ex-NASA astronaut. He's another very much a proponent of UFOs. He talks about them a lot. I notice in every interview he has to say, this has nothing to do with NASA, because he doesn't want to drag their name through the dirt or make them cut off his pension or something like that. Yeah. And I suppose he actually saw some things when he went into space. If he did go into space, I think at least he went into orbit, but purportedly then went. I believe it was one of the Apollo missions, one of the later ones, Apollo 15.
Was he the guy that said that as who's got around the back side of the moon, that Santa does exist?
I don't think that one was him. But that's the kind of thing we're talking about. So Santa, apparently, if you watch this footage of the astronauts on going around the moon, Santa is kind of their code word to mean that there's something strange flying around.
Yeah. Well, there's definitely something strange flying around. Otherwise, the whole topic wouldn't exist.
I'm not sure if I buy into that.
That's enough. That's enough proof for me.
I mean, lots of strange stuff happens. But no, you're right. Yeah. I agree with that. There's something strange happening, but what it is, nobody really knows.
Yeah.
Cool. There's also a lot of interesting Larry King interviews with officers from military bases and astronauts. It seems like Larry King is one of the few American journalists who actually wants to investigate things. The annoying thing about these interviews is he always gets on a token skeptic. One time he got on Bill Nye, the science guy, and one time he just got a big fat neck beard. I'm not sure what inspired him to do that, but the thing is, it's kind of weird because normally the people he gets on as skeptics actually have no idea about the subject matter. Like, you think they want to read up a bit about it first, but they come with the most simplistic explanations. Like, I remember there's a piece where Bill Nye is like, "Oh, okay, you saw something, but that doesn't mean there's aliens." And the other guys are like, "Yeah, what? Okay, we didn't say there was aliens, so why are you bringing that up? Like, that's not relevant to the evidence at all."
That's kind of what we agreed to before we started this episode. That we're talking about unidentified flying anomalies, nothing to do with aliens.
Right. I think we mentioned aliens about 6 billion times, at least over 9,000.
It's just easy. It's an easy way to go. I'm pretty sure it's aliens.
Yeah. Well, like I said, the extraterrestrial hypothesis is a reasonable hypothesis, compliance with the evidence. So, cool.
We'll read the report, and I don't know. I'll give you more of an investigated point of view rather than talk aliens.
Let's read the Project Blue Book and see what we come up with about that, because I think that's going to yield some interesting results.
Homework.
Yeah. All right, cool. My name's Kurt Robertson.
And my name's Aaron Battle.
This has been the Paradise Paradox. Press like, press subscribe, jump onto Facebook and press like there too. Excuse me. Make sure you press get notifications on Facebook so it comes up.
You don't want to miss out.
As a notification, because otherwise you might not know what super cool things we are doing. And subscribe on iTunes and on Pocket Casts, and have a good one.
Follow us on Twitter.
Yep. Twitter too, @TroubleBubble.
@BattleAZ.
Peace.
I forgot to say wash Hushingong.
Do you want to say it now or chop it in?
Wash Hushingong. I did write this down, otherwise I'm not going to remember. We've got a big to-do list.
Tiempo de morir. Tiempo de nacer y tiempo de morir. Tiempo de nacer. Tiempo de nacer y tiempo de morir. Tiempo de nacer y tiempo de morir. Tiempo de nacer y tiempo de morir. Tiempo de nacer y tiempo de morir.